Mike, check 1, 2. Okay, cool. Austin said it's hard to follow the governor. It's also hard to follow Austin because he's a badass. So, hi everybody. I hope you're having a great evening. I am Kent. I founded the ETH community in 2014, and now it's turned into this with the help of so many contributors. So thank you for coming. These days I do tokenomics and shapeshift. So the topic of this panel is very core, I think, to the heart of what a lot of us are trying to do here. We're going to be exploring some important questions. What about what we're doing here in Colorado has made it such a fertile environment for crypto innovation and for Web3? Why are we here in Denver instead of Cleveland or something? And based on that, this isn't designed to be like a cheerleading panel. The idea is, what lessons can we take in order to spread the virus? So if you live, no matter where you live, what can you learn from what we're doing here? We have the perfect panelists lined up for this, so we can dig right in. Valeria.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Quick intros.
Yes. So I got into the crypto space about 5 years ago. Met Kent here in Denver at ETH Denver or ETH meetups, and consecutively ended up working in New York on spreading the news about Ethereum for Consensus. Thereafter at Parity for Polkadot, and most recently been working in the Polkadot ecosystem and just moved back to Colorado. So excited to speak about the Colorado community here.
Welcome back and glad you're here.
Thank you.
Willy.
Thanks, Ken. Hey, everybody. My name is Willy Ogorzaly. Actually moved to Colorado back in 2010 for school, SCO Buffs. Ended up starting a company there, dropping out. It was Web2 legal tech. Did that for about 5 years, and then started Bitfract. Bitfract, woo! Got acquired by Shapeshift. I was working at Shapeshift until we transitioned to a DAO. Now that Shapeshift is a DAO, my new role is head of decentralization at the Fox Foundation. It's a not-for-profit foundation set up to support the DAO in achieving its mission of achieving full decentralization. So our mission will be achieved when we can all fire ourselves and shut down the foundation and transition full control over Shapeshift to the Fox token holders.
Hey everyone, I'm Phillips from IRLArt, and we've been the art stewards of ETH Denver since 2019. This is by far the biggest art gallery and craziest amount of displays we've ever done. There's like 126 artists from 15 different countries. We also run IRL Underground, which is an NFT and independent music venue in Denver. And I'm also an artist and stuff.
And awesome. I'm Shannon. I am also a co-producer of ETH Denver. We're really stoked to have you guys here. I've been helping do ecosystem growth in crypto for about 5 years now. So just hoping to bring all of you awesome people together so that you can go create some magic. So thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you, Shannon. So I'll do some individual questions. We'll start down here and come back. But Shannon, so you've had a front row seat to how this community has scaled, being so involved with ETH Denver over the years. And this is a testament to yet another year of insane scaling. Maybe next year we'll have like 50,000 people. But based on your experience, what do you think ETH Denver has gotten right in terms of community building, and what would you maybe do over again or change?
That's great. Yeah, for those of you that are new joining us this year, this has historically been a 2,000 person event. And this year we're closer to 11. So this is huge for us. We're at like a 5x factor of what we've normally seen. So watching the community grow is totally scaring us, to be quite frank, but really exciting. And one of the things that I've always loved about the Ethereum community is the focus on building. I was telling a story earlier today about coming in here in 2019 when the price was in the gutter and everybody was saying that crypto was a scam. And everyone that showed up to ETH Denver that year had their head down, was building the tools, was not fazed by any of it. They were really optimistic and they were focused 10 years into the future. They just knew that these tools are going to help the world be a freer place. It gives me goosebumps to watch these people's commitment to making sure that we're all in this community together. And it's such a for us, by us sort of build. So one of the things that I love is watching all of you new folks come and join us and come and gather around this ethos of helping the world be a freer place. Some of the things that I think we can do better is making sure that that message is spread very widely, because right now we have a lot of noise around NFTs and a lot of different ways that people are coming in, and it's our job to make sure that everyone here knows there's an ethos behind this. It's not just about investments. It's not just about money grabs. It's about us curating community tools together.
Amen to that. Woo! Thanks for the answer. Next, so Annie. And let me just briefly, I want to pimp out Annie's NFT gallery because it's Colorado's first NFT gallery and it's amazing. It's in Rhino. It's called IRLArt. It's next to Osaka Ramen. And it's so cool, guys. Go check it out if you haven't been there. But Annie, you're in a very interesting position of you're living at the nexus of crypto and sort of like art and culture. Because these NFTs, all of a sudden, the blockchain isn't just some like nebulous ephemeral thing. It's like you're looking at this beautiful art right in your face, and like you've also cultivated a really cool environment there at IRL. My question for you is, what advice would you have to anyone else who's trying to build their own kind of like crypto-centric space?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of success putting in proposals to DAOs, and that's where I would start if you're looking for funding to get a creative project off the ground. And we actually open source all of ours, so they're in our Discord. I always share, how we presented, whether it was successful or not, and I encourage people to just take our template and create your own proposals for DAOs, and always happy to give feedback. And we always joke also about finding low-tech solutions to high-tech problems. So, for a lot of our displays, we're literally just putting USBs into TVs, or literally for our CRTs, our vintage TVs, we use DVD players. We just recently upgraded to these cool like Mika devices that use USBs, but it's really not rocket science. We play a lot with projection mapping, and that's been really fun because you can really, projection map a lot of different surfaces. And so we've been having fun with the vintage frames, because I think for the last year incubating NFTs in a gallery setting, we've been really trying to be very literal about presenting it as art. So we got these, vintage frames and projection map that, so it looks like art. But I'm looking forward to getting more into like installation and stage design. And I think there's a lot of creative and physical installations that, could really benefit from creativity, and lots to come.
Cool, thank you. Okay, sort of switching gears now over to DAOs. This is kind of the almost opposite sort of thing. We're talking about meat space, real life. In the DAO context, we're talking about something that is more ephemeral, something that many DAOs exist maybe purely as global entities where the contributors are just a bunch of anonymous cartoons on Discord, hanging out, and they're not necessarily meeting in real life. This is something I often think about as somebody also at Shapeshift alongside Willy. It's a challenge. So my question for you, Willy, is what sort of advice would you give DAOs that are, or really any sort of crypto culture that exists primarily online, that you're trying to create like a vibrant community and culture, but you don't necessarily have that sort of real life interaction that might come with like typical ground or grassroots communities on a local basis?
Yeah, I think step one of building a vibrant community is you got to have some dank memes, right? You got to be able to distill what is the purpose of your community? What are you guys doing? Why should me, as somebody who's not part of your community, come join your community? And if you get the memes right and they're super dank, then what you'll find is that people who see these memes and align with your memes, your vision, the purpose of your community, will be attracted to it. And that's one of the cool things about DAOs, is that it's not just a core team, a small startup. There's no barriers between you and the community. So these people come in, and then the next step, I think, is I'm a product guy, so I think about user experience. How can you make sure that these new community members who are coming to check out your community can have a good experience? And the user experience, it's not just UI and buttons and stuff, it's the whole experience. And so from the moment they land on your Discord, is it a smooth experience to get onboarded? Do they see cool information and like ways to get started? Are there welcoming community members who are there to say hello and meet them and answer their questions? And are there opportunities for them to get involved, right? Like, it's one thing to come in and just like say, hey guys, GM, how's it going? What's up? But like, if you can give these community members opportunities to contribute, and then ideally reward them with some of your governance tokens so now they're really invested, I think those are kind of the two key pieces to building a strong, vibrant community. And if you get those right, then your community can help you figure out the rest.
Amen. Thanks. Valeria, so we're going to pivot a little bit now. You know, at Ethereum Denver, at ETH Denver, we try to be very crypto agnostic. We are the opposite of maximalists here. Valeria is actually from the Polkadot ecosystem, which has seen a lot of interesting innovation and on technology that differs, you know, sharply from Ethereum in some ways. And also the community is different. So my question for you is, kind of having a front row seat to Polkadot, is what do you think it does different versus Ethereum, and what could Ethereans learn from the Polkadot ecosystem?
Yeah. So Polkadot is a meta project. It's a layer 1, so it does not compete with Ethereum. It's future-proof as well. The main differences that I'd like to mention today are Polkadot, unlike Ethereum, has on-chain governance. So the decisions are made in a clear and transparent fashion on-chain, and they're usually made, right? The other thing that Polkadot has is an on-chain fund. So 80% of all the transaction fees that are generated go to the on-chain fund. And if for some reason Parity Technologies or Web3 Foundation were to go away, the on-chain fund would continue funding awesome projects. Regards to advice for Ethereum, so I would say it'd be great if Ethereum would be more experimental. We have something called Kusama, which is a canary network, and it has real value-bearing assets on it, which allows for a much more vibrant testing environment.
Kusama is something that I am not afraid to admit I got totally wrong in terms of its adoption. I figured it's just another test net. In Ethereum, we've had tons of test nets, but lo and behold, that sandbox idea has proven to be really useful and compelling for people building on it. So yeah, maybe there's a lot of, maybe there's lessons there for Ethereum-based projects or the blockchain itself. Thank you. So I don't want to get too specific with questions. I want to create some spontaneity here, but I did want to at least touch on one more general question. And this is just a airball. Anybody can take this if you want. But again, you know, the reason we're doing this panel is to hopefully impart some lessons to everybody out there in the broader community, the crypto community. I think we can all agree that we get crypto right here in Colorado. We've done something right over the years, and you know, it's growing. How can we propagate this to the rest of the world? Like, how can we help the virus spread to other communities and other localities throughout the globe?
Go ahead. Well, I like to think that DAOs help a little bit with that, and especially if you think about like startup culture too, and compare Web 2 startups to Web 3 startups. To be a Web 2 startup, like a lot of the action happens in San Francisco, right? And a big part of that is because that's where all the funding is locked up. But that creates a ton of barriers for people who don't live in San Francisco to get involved and to build something awesome. But with Web 3, like those barriers are gone, and the capital pool can flow from anywhere, and the talent can flow from anywhere. So, I mean, if you're watching this from afar and you're like, you want to get involved, join a DAO. And, you know, you might not be hanging out in Meet Space immediately. Maybe soon we'll have some cool metaverse stuff and you guys can like at least like put on a VR headset and feel like you're together. But you can hang out with the community you're aligned with. You can build cool shit with your internet friends and get rewarded. And you can raise money from people all over. And I think that's pretty disruptive in terms of just like the startup ecosystem with Web3 relative to Web 2.
Well, and something that you and I have talked about a fair amount is what happens from the grassroots layer up, right? That when we start at the bottom and build up into communities, then you make it unignorable, right? So when you have the DAO communities, when you have this community coming together with 11,000 people, like obviously Governor Polis has been supportive of us for a long time, but this is unignorable. We are speaking with our boots right now, and so I think you're totally right. The more that we build community around it, the more that it becomes a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, One thing I wanted to add is, especially for people coming over from Web 2, especially because we're currently in somewhat of a still a bull market, I think it's really important to share the values we share as a Web3 community, and this is not a quick financial gain that we're here for. Like, we're trying to change the world, and this, the philosophy of Web3 is quite important in terms of building what we're doing here. And so people who are coming over from Web 2 especially, and they see the high prices flashing on the news, like this is just like a side fringe benefit of what we're doing here.
Agreed. Well said. And just to add on that, and this is building on something Governor Polis was just talking about, but I think with respect to values, one thing Colorado has always done, or the community here in Colorado has done well, is always being a big tent. The idea of not having gatekeepers is such a powerful thing. The notion of a decentralized blockchain is we don't have, nobody can prevent you from publishing code. And when it comes down to the community or cultural level, knowing that you can be yourself, whoever you are, let your freak flag fly, do what you want, and nobody's going to tell you can't do it, is incredibly powerful. And I think that's been reflected with all the panelists on the stage embody that in their own way. So that's been so cool to see. Kind of in terms of like looking further ahead, another question is like, where do you see the crypto scene in Colorado in 5 years, which is like 50 years in crypto time? So, I mean, we've made a lot of progress, but as things become more mainstream, like, what's possible? Where could we head? I'll direct this one to you, Annie, because you've already been sort of like right on the cutting edge of bringing crypto to the mainstream. With your IRL?
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, we've had IRL Underground now for about a year, but we're wanting to expand that into a makerspace and like an innovation hub. So really creating this ecosystem of, the art gallery, the music venue, and then this makerspace. And I hope that that's the future, having spaces where we can all meet and build together year-round and be able to really, make those doors easier to open and like those conversations more fluid so that we can, just create safe spaces where people can ask questions. A lot of artists are really visual, tactile learners, and so I think having, a makerspace and these kinds of spaces would be really helpful to be able to find different pathways forward for different people to engage with the tech. And so, and I think that could even happen sooner. It's hard to think like crypto years, right? It's like every day is a year. Crypto in 5 years, shoot, like we're going to be on hoverboards and stuff.
So in a sense, you're kind of borrowing from what successful communities have done in other areas, like the idea of makerspace. That's not new to crypto. That's been around a while, and flourishing like artistic spaces. So that's an interesting point. We don't have to like reinvent the wheel here. In some ways, we can copy what other successful like creative communities have done in other cultures. Curious to get everybody else's thoughts on the same question in terms of looking ahead and where you see the crypto community specifically in the Denver Boulder area down the road.
I kind of want to hear your answer.
What's that?
I want to hear your answer.
You're asking the moderator. The ask the mod portion has arrived. So I honestly see this event within 3 to 5 years taking place at Mile High Stadium. I'm not being facetious here or fucking around. Like, to see how this is scaling and to see how much people love the environment we've created here and how nurturing it is for the mind, body, and soul, and how liberating it is to just be able to be like, I can do what I want. This is empowering, and I'm surrounded by people who think outside the box. It's a perfect antidote to like the awful polarization that the media sells us, a bunch of fucking bullshit about wars and, trying to put us in different boxes. Like here, we're just all building cool stuff, and it's not utopian, it's actually happening right now. So I'd like to think that this vision is very compelling to people, and it's only going to grow. We're an existing hub right now. So I think we'll see a much bigger ETH Denver in the future. I would bet on this. I think we will have at least 5 very noteworthy crypto companies and or DAOs that are primarily based in the Denver Boulder area. we will be the Silicon Valley of Web3 and crypto. And you guys can, in 5 years, we'll see how we're doing. But I'm gonna put my mind, body, and soul behind that one. So we'll see how we do. So did you have any thoughts on that too, V?
No, I just wanted to add, I mean, Colorado is so great. I've lived on both coasts, and it's incredible because it's not so, egocentric in a way that people could be sometimes on the coast. The people here are much more approachable. And another thing I wanted to say about Colorado, I mean, it used to be somewhat affordable to live here, but it kind of is. It used to be I believe it used to be called the fitness capital of the world as well. So there's like a great life-work balance here, and the 300 days a year. So 300 days a year we have sunshine. So you guys probably experience this yourself. Even when it snows and it's freezing cold, it's beautiful. And it's does so much for the mindset because, for example, like living in Berlin, it gets dark at 4 o'clock and it's dark and gray in the winter, even during the day. So the sunshine is a huge plus for Colorado.
A couple days of shitty weather is fine, but once it's like three months of gray, you start to go a little bit crazy. Willy, did you have
Yeah, I can touch on it. We got, I think, 3 minutes left, by the way. I'm excited to see kind of how the regulators can support us because I think there's such a big opportunity here. In Colorado, we're blessed to have guys like Jared Paulus and Phil Weiser who are very pro-crypto and really understand it. So there's a lot of opportunity, and especially these guys get DAOs, and there's still a big gap between DAOs can do a lot of things that centralized organizations can't do, which is awesome, but there's still a few things that DAOs can't do that centralized organizations can do, like have a bank account and sign contracts and that boring stuff. And I'm hopeful that that the guys that understand it can help come up with new rules that can enable DAOs to do all the things that centralized organizations can do and more. And that's just one example, but I think the builders are going to keep building, right? But we need all the help we can get, and I hope that guys like Jared Paulus and stuff. I'm glad that guys like Jared Paulus are helping us out.
Amen. Thanks, Willy. I think we got about 4 minutes left. Lest this turn into too much of a fist-pumping, cheerleading conversation, I do want to touch on, okay, obviously we're doing something right here. Are there any downsides to building crypto in Colorado?
You want to take it?
Yeah, I think, as an organization that is, working on city, state level, institutional level projects that also wants to launch a token and become a DAO, I worry about regulations. I think it's kept me from taking the plunge, but ultimately, I think that Colorado is the place to be, and we're figuring it out. And I think that that's the one downside is that the government is holding us back from really having clear paths forward for organizations that want to engage. But I'm probably just going to full send anyway.
We're fortunate to have a governor that's in a state government that's much better on that point. But the federal level, it's a lot tougher. Willy, you had some thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now. But Colorado is not necessarily any worse than any other U.S. state, right? But the cool thing is that you start a DAO in Colorado. I mean, don't go start a DAO in Wyoming and actually incorporate an LLC unless you really know what you're doing, because you might actually not be getting that many benefits, and you might be giving up a lot. And one of the great benefits about DAOs is that right now there is no jurisdiction when you launch a DAO. It's global, and it's not clear which regulations actually apply to you. So yeah, we're in Colorado. I live in Colorado. We're fully DAOing it, and I'm not too afraid because I think that these regulators it's going to take them a while to catch up and actually put some laws in place. Right now, it's just not clear what laws or what jurisdictions apply to DAOs. And I think that by the time any of these regulators catch up, if you're DAOing it right, by the time they catch up, you're going to be fully decentralized. Unless you're Denver DAO, hopefully you have people all over the world and enough people that it's not any individual that's liable for what your DAO is doing. So yeah, that would be probably the main downside, but it's not limited to Colorado, and I don't even think it's that much of a limitation. Although I do hear you, it's uncertain, and it'd be much better if we could just have full send and approval to go full send. Jared Paulus, if you're listening, please give us that approval.
Well, and as John Poller, the founder of ETH Denver, likes to talk about, Colorado is actually the co-op, like the Delaware of co-ops in the country. We actually have some of the best co-op laws in the nation. So if you're founding something like Allow and you need a legal entity, this is a wonderful state to do it in. So I'm not answering your question because now I'm just pumping, but there's a lot of room for Colorado to be a big mover.
Cool. Thanks for the answers to that, because honestly, I racked my brain, and I can't think of any downsides. It's awesome to build here. So I think we're about at time, so thanks for listening, guys. I will reiterate my prediction. In 5 years, we're going to be doing this in sports arenas in a non-hypey and non-douchey way. We're still going to keep it real as we scale, and Colorado is going to be the Silicon Valley of Web3. Thank you.